I still remember that electrifying moment as if it were splashed in neon across my entire being. The moment at my wife's birthday party when in front of everyone she publicly thanked another man for his kindness and support. In those first 100 heartbeats, every cherished dream of a shared future shattered into 1,000 fragments of betrayal and disbelief. The room, once filled with warm laughter and celebratory chatter, fell into a heavy silence as her words echoed like a knife. I felt a surge of raw pain and humiliation, mixed with a quiet, seething resolve. In that brutal instant, I knew I had to choose myself, so I left that party, and as I walked out, I took back the gift she had given me that very night, a symbolic reclaiming of my dignity and a final farewell to a love that had become unrecognizable. For years, I had believed that our marriage was built on mutual respect, shared dreams, and the unspoken promise that we'd always support each other, even in the face of life's challenges. I worked hard, sacrificing personal pleasures and countless sleepless nights to build a future for us that included a home, financial security, and the promise of everlasting companionship. I treasured the little tokens she gave me over the years, small gifts that spoke of love and care, and I believed they were symbols of our unbreakable bond. But as I sat at that birthday party, surrounded by friends and family, the unexpected public praise for another man shattered that illusion. Her smile, once warm and genuine when she spoke to me, had transformed into something detached and almost rehearsed when she thanked him. It was as though she had cast me aside, relegating me to the background of our shared life, and celebrating someone else instead. I remember the details vividly. The restaurant was elegantly decorated, filled with the soft hum of conversation and the clinking of fine china. Our friends and family gathered around long tables adorned with flickering candles, and the atmosphere was one of celebration. I had arrived that evening expecting to share in the joy, to feel proud of the life we had built together. Yet, as the night unfolded, I noticed subtle shifts in her demeanor, brief, almost imperceptible glances towards the man she was praising, a lightness in her tone when she spoke of him, and a lack of the intimacy we had once shared. The crescendo came when she, with a poised smile and perfect composure, thanked him for his support, crediting him with something that I had always believed was our joint effort. My heart pounded, and a silent storm of emotions began to rage within me: betrayal, hurt, and a growing determination not to let this be the end of my story. After the toast, as laughter resumed around the table, I found myself standing up abruptly, feeling as if the very air around me had turned cold. I excused myself with a vague apology and made my way out of the restaurant. The chill night air hit me as I stepped outside, and with every step, I felt both the weight of my shattered trust and a strange, invigorating sense of liberation. The gift, a small, elegant piece of jewelry she had given me on previous birthdays, remained in my hands. In that silent moment on the darkened street, I decided that if she could publicly cast me aside with a few well-chosen words, then I would reclaim what was mine. I walked to my car with a heavy heart and a clear resolve. I would leave her behind, and I would take back not only the gift, but the life I had worked so hard to build. As I drove away, the city lights blurred into streams of color and my thoughts raced. I wondered how everything had come to this point. Had I been so blinded by the comfort of our routine that I failed to notice the cracks in our foundation? I recalled the small arguments that had gradually grown into silent distances, the missed opportunities for honest conversation, and the way her eyes would wander during our dinners as if searching for something beyond the life we shared. Each memory stung with the realization that our marriage, once a haven of mutual support, had become a stage for hidden resentments and unspoken truths. And yet, in that moment of profound loss, a new determination began to crystallize in my mind, a resolve to rebuild my identity from the ashes of betrayal and to prove that I was more than just a footnote in her story. In the days that followed, I immersed myself in a rigorous process of self-reflection and planning. I locked myself in my study for hours on end, poring over old journals and financial records, retracing the steps that had led me to this painful juncture. I discovered, with a mix of sorrow and grim satisfaction, that I had always carried within me the seeds of independence. Every late night at the office, every sacrifice made to build our future, had been a silent investment in the man I was becoming, even if I had never fully realized it at the time. The more I reflected, the more I understood that my worth was not defined by her actions, but by the relentless pursuit of my own dreams. I began to draft a new vision for my life, one that would no longer be tethered to a relationship that had betrayed my trust. I wrote about the future I wanted, a future filled with professional success, personal growth, and the freedom to live authentically. I outlined goals for building my own financial security, for investing in new opportunities, and for reclaiming the sense of pride that had once been so integral to who I was. That gift I had clutched so tightly as I walked out of that party became a symbol, a tangible reminder that I was taking back what was mine. It wasn't just about the jewelry, it was about the principle of the matter. I had given so much of myself to a shared dream, only to have it reduced to a hollow gesture by someone I once trusted completely. Now I was determined to rebuild, not for her but for me. Every minute of that night, every painful memory fueled a transformation within me. I knew that the road ahead would be filled with obstacles, legal battles, emotional turmoil, and the challenge of redefining my identity, but I was ready. I had chosen to leave the life that no longer recognized my worth and to step into a future defined solely by my own ambition and resilience. In that moment of raw clarity, as I stared into the darkness and then at the soft glow of the approaching dawn, I made a promise to myself. I would rebuild my future, one courageous step at a time, and I would ensure that no one, not even the person I once loved, could ever diminish my worth again. In the weeks following that pivotal dinner, when she repeatedly insisted that I give up my job for her sake, I found myself navigating a labyrinth of conflicting emotions and life-changing decisions. The memory of her demand, uttered with such conviction that it cut me to the bone, kept replaying in my mind like a broken record. At first, I was overwhelmed by an intense cocktail of disbelief, anger, and sorrow. I questioned how the person I had once loved so fiercely could see my hard-earned career as nothing more than an obstacle to her own dreams. But as the days passed, a quiet transformation began to take shape within me. Instead of caving to her insistence, I gradually discovered a burning resolve to stand by my own aspirations, and in doing so, I set forth on a journey to redefine not only my professional identity but my entire future. My mornings started earlier than ever before. I took long, solitary runs through the awakening city, each stride a cathartic release of pent-up frustration and grief. In those early hours, when the world was still shrouded in silence and possibility, I allowed myself to feel every raw emotion, the lingering sadness, the sting of betrayal, and the fierce determination that was slowly emerging from the depths of my wounded pride. With each run, I began to realize that my career was not just a job, it was an integral part of who I was. Every early morning run, every drop of sweat, was a reaffirmation that I would not relinquish my ambitions for someone else's dreams, no matter how forcefully they were imposed upon me. Returning home after those runs, I transformed my space into a personal war room, a place where I could immerse myself in my work and rediscover my passion for what I did best. I rearranged my study, cleared the clutter from my desk, and set up a whiteboard where I jotted down new ideas and strategies. I spent countless hours poring over industry reports, financial projections, and business plans that I had once meticulously crafted. Every document I revisited served as a reminder of the long hours I had invested in my career, the sacrifices I had made, and the dreams I had built brick by brick. In that quiet intensity, I began to see that her demand for me to quit my job was not a measure of my worth but a glaring misjudgment of my potential. I was not only capable of excelling at my work, I was destined to soar, and every setback was simply fuel for the fire of my ambition. I threw myself into work with an energy that was both desperate and exhilarating. I accepted every challenging project, each assignment a chance to demonstrate that my dedication and expertise could not be dismissed so easily. I stayed late at the office, revising proposals and brainstorming new ideas with a team that gradually began to see the spark of a leader in me. Every successful presentation, every nod of approval from colleagues and superiors, was a small victory that chipped away at the bitter sting of her demands. I started pitching innovative strategies that not only improved our bottom line but also redefined our company's approach in a competitive market. Slowly, whispers of admiration began to replace the undercurrent of pity that had once hung over me. My performance and determination led to a series of accolades that I had only dreamed about before, promotions, bonuses, and recognition that validated every sacrifice I had made. It was as though every long night, every moment of doubt, had prepared me for this meteoric rise. I was no longer the man who might have been swayed by demands to quit his passion. I had become a powerhouse of ambition and vision. Yet, despite these professional triumphs, the emotional journey was far from over. The wound of her rejection, her insistence that I abandon the life I had so painstakingly built, was raw and unhealed. There were moments, especially in the quiet hours of the night, when I felt the sharp pang of loneliness and betrayal. I'd lie awake in the darkness, the silence punctuated only by the soft ticking of the clock, and question everything. Had I been too blinded by the comfort of our shared life? Could I have done something differently to prevent this devastating rift? In those vulnerable moments, I turned to therapy, a safe space where I could unravel the tangled emotions of anger, sorrow, and a creeping sense of self-doubt. My therapist helped me understand that while her demands were a rejection of my professional ambitions, they did not define my self-worth. Through our sessions, I learned to process the betrayal without letting it shackle me to the past. I began to see that every tear shed in the darkness was a seed for growth, and that true empowerment comes from embracing your pain and transforming it into a catalyst for positive change. During this period of emotional reckoning, I also reconnected with old friends and allies, people who had always seen me as more than just a provider, but as a visionary and a dreamer with a passion for life. I invited them over for long, heartfelt conversations where we reminisced about the good times and discussed the challenges of staying true to oneself in a world full of compromise. Their unwavering support was a balm to my wounded pride, and every shared memory became a reminder that my worth had never been in question. It was merely obscured by someone else's misguided desires. I listened as they recounted times when I had stood by my convictions, even when the odds were stacked against me, and their words fortified my resolve. In those gatherings, I found that my journey was not an isolated battle, but part of a universal struggle for self-respect and authenticity. Amid all this, I began to explore creative outlets as a way to channel the turbulent emotions that swirled within me. I took up writing again, pouring out every thought and feeling in a series of long, unfiltered journal entries that soon evolved into a blog. I wrote about the moment I realized I was being asked to abandon my career, about the long nights filled with self-doubt, and about the quiet strength that was emerging from the depths of my struggle. My writing became a therapeutic process, a way to articulate my pain and, eventually, to celebrate my small victories. The supportive responses from readers, people who had faced their own betrayals and found solace in my words, helped me see that my journey of transformation was resonating with others. Their encouragement was a powerful affirmation that I was not alone, and that my story could inspire others to stand up for their own dreams. I also turned my focus inward by adopting new routines that nurtured both my body and mind. I started practicing mindfulness and meditation, learning to quiet the relentless chatter of self-doubt and to focus on the present moment. I read books on resilience and personal growth, each page reinforcing the idea that my future was mine to shape. I set daily goals that balanced my professional ambitions with my need for personal healing, and I celebrated even the smallest successes. A successful meeting, a kind word from a colleague, or a moment of clarity during a long run. Each day, as I slowly pieced together the shattered fragments of my self-worth, I began to see that the person I was becoming was not defined by my sacrifices, but by my determination to live authentically. As weeks turned into months, the cumulative effect of all these efforts started to transform my life in tangible ways. At work, my renewed energy and unwavering focus began to yield impressive results. I was entrusted with high-profile projects, and my innovative ideas started drawing the attention of senior management. The turnaround was not sudden, but it was steady and profound. Each new achievement was a quiet, potent reminder that I was reclaiming my identity and carving out a space for myself in a world that had once tried to keep me in the shadows. I received my first promotion, an accolade that felt like a resounding validation of every long night. Every moment of self-doubt turned into determination. The promotion was not just a career milestone, it was a personal triumph, a declaration that I had chosen my own path and that my dreams were too powerful to be stifled. Outside the office, my personal life began to blossom as well. I forged new friendships and deepened old ones, connecting with people who valued honesty, resilience, and the courage to stand by one's convictions. We would share our stories over cups of coffee, discussing the trials and tribulations of navigating life's unexpected betrayals. These connections became a source of strength, a network of support that reminded me that while my journey had been fraught with heartache, it was also rich with opportunities for growth and renewal. I even began to attend small community gatherings and local events, where I listened to others share their experiences and found comfort in the shared understanding that life's hardships could indeed lead to greater wisdom and strength. In the midst of this whirlwind of professional triumphs and personal rediscovery, I also started planning for a future that was entirely my own. I revisited my long-held dreams, the ones I had once set aside in the name of love and compromise, and I began to nurture them with the same passion that had driven me to excel at work. I set new ambitious goals for my career, outlining detailed strategies for further advancement, and I invested in my own education, taking courses and attending seminars that broadened my skills and opened new avenues for success. Each new objective was a declaration that I would no longer let anyone's shallow expectations dictate my destiny. I envisioned a future where my professional success would not only provide financial stability but also serve as a beacon of hope for anyone who had ever been told to sacrifice their dreams for someone else's ideal. Every step I took during this period felt like a rebirth, a transformation that was as much about reclaiming my identity as it was about proving my worth. The pain of that fateful night gradually lost its power, not because it had been forgotten, but because I had grown so much stronger in its wake. I learned that betrayal, as devastating as it can be, also offers a rare opportunity for introspection and reinvention. I began to see that the challenges I faced were not the end of my story, but merely the opening chapter of a new narrative, one in which I was the hero and my journey was defined by resilience, determination, and an unwavering belief in my own potential. As the seasons shifted and the days grew longer, I found that my life was steadily aligning with the vision I had set for myself. My professional successes were no longer the stuff of quiet victories. They were celebrated milestones that reinforced my belief in my own abilities. My personal growth was equally evident, in the deep, genuine connections I forged with others and in the renewed passion that now fueled every aspect of my life. I had transformed the hurt and betrayal into a foundation upon which I was building a future that was rich with promise and defined by my own dreams. The journey was far from over, but with each passing day, I felt more certain that I was exactly where I was meant to be, a man reborn from the ashes of betrayal, rising steadily toward a horizon filled with endless possibility. That morning, as the first light of dawn crept through the window of my corner office, I realized that everything had shifted irreversibly. I sat in the quiet solitude of my office, a place that just months ago had been a battleground of doubt and heartache, and reflected on the long, winding journey that had brought me here. I had just received the news of my long-awaited promotion, a milestone that was not only a validation of my tireless work but also a resounding affirmation of the path I had chosen when my wife demanded I quit my job for her. Now, while she found herself unemployed and adrift in a life she had once idealized, I was thriving in a world that I had built on my own terms. Every accolade, every congratulatory nod, every email praising my contributions was a quiet, yet powerful rebuke to the moment when her demands nearly cost me everything I had worked for. In the days and weeks after that fateful dinner, when she insisted I sacrifice my career for her supposed happiness, I had felt a cocktail of emotions: deep betrayal, searing anger, and an overwhelming sadness that threatened to pull me under. I remember those nights vividly, lying awake in a darkened room, the silence punctuated only by the steady tick of the clock. I questioned if I had ever truly been seen for who I was. But in that darkness, something began to change. Slowly, I started to see that her insistence on me quitting wasn't an act of love. It was a demand for control, a way to mold our shared life into something that suited her, at the expense of my own identity and ambitions. Determined not to let that dictate my future, I embarked on a journey of relentless self-reinvention. I threw myself into my work with a ferocity that I had never known before. Every extra hour at the office, every challenging project I undertook, became a testament to my refusal to be diminished. I re-examined my career goals with renewed clarity and resolved that my professional aspirations were not negotiable. I wanted to prove, to myself more than anyone, that my work was not merely a means to an end but an integral part of who I was. I immersed myself in strategy meetings, brainstorming sessions, and even took on projects that stretched my abilities to their limits. I built new initiatives, proposed innovative ideas, and watched with a quiet, determined satisfaction as my efforts began to pay off. It wasn't long before my hard work began to yield tangible results. My company recognized my contributions and rewarded my persistence with increased responsibilities and, eventually, a promotion. That promotion was more than just a title change. It was a declaration that I had not only stayed true to my own aspirations but had soared beyond them. Each step forward in my career was a piece of a larger victory, one that dismantled the narrative of sacrifice my wife had tried to impose on me. With every new challenge I conquered, I reclaimed more of the identity I had once lost, proving to myself that my dreams were worth fighting for. Simultaneously, as my professional life flourished, I began to reconstruct the personal parts of my identity that had been quietly eroded over years of compromise. I reconnected with hobbies I had abandoned, the long-forgotten joy of reading, the creative release of writing, and even the simple pleasure of an impromptu guitar jam with old friends. I found that these activities, once set aside in favor of our shared responsibilities, now served as vital expressions of who I was. They reminded me that my life was multifaceted and that true fulfillment came from nurturing every aspect of my being. In quiet evenings spent with a journal in hand, I recorded every twist and turn of my journey, from the painful days of self-doubt to the exhilarating moments of breakthrough, and slowly I began to see that the scars of the past were not marks of failure, but emblems of resilience. Even my social world began to transform. I started to gather with colleagues and old friends who had always believed in me long before the cracks in our relationship became apparent. Over coffee, dinner, and heartfelt conversations, I shared my story with raw honesty. I spoke of the long nights of questioning my self-worth, the sting of her demands, and the eventual awakening that led me to double down on my own dreams. Their responses were overwhelmingly supportive, each shared anecdote and word of encouragement a reminder that my journey was not unique, but a universal struggle for self-respect and personal fulfillment. In those intimate gatherings, I discovered a renewed sense of belonging and a powerful reaffirmation that my value was intrinsic, not subject to the whims of anyone else's desires. While I was rebuilding my personal life and career, I also took decisive steps to secure my future financially. I revisited my long-held financial strategies, reaffirming the cautious decisions I had made in the past. I met with trusted financial advisors who helped me reallocate my investments into ventures that promised stability and growth. I diversified my portfolio and explored new opportunities in emerging markets, all while keeping a close eye on the legacy I wanted to build. Every positive update in my financial statements was a quiet celebration, a reminder that while others may falter, my commitment to my own future was unwavering. My financial independence was no longer a dream, it was a reality I was constructing, piece by piece, day by day. As my days filled with work, growth, and self-reclamation, I began to see that my transformation was not just about professional success or financial security, it was about reclaiming every part of myself that had been suppressed. I embraced meditation and mindfulness practices to quiet the lingering echoes of past betrayals. I learned to appreciate the small, everyday moments, a sunrise on a crisp morning, the comforting warmth of a good book, or the shared laughter of genuine friends. These simple joys gradually replaced the bitter aftertaste of resentment with a deep, abiding gratitude for the chance to start over. I realized that every setback had been a lesson, every tear a reminder of the strength I possessed, and that my journey was a mosaic of triumphs built upon the ruins of betrayal. In time, my successes began to ripple outwards, drawing attention from people I had once barely noticed. Invitations to speak at industry events and networking sessions came my way, and I found that my story resonated with many who had faced similar hardships. I shared the narrative of how I had refused to let my wife's demands define me, how I had chosen to invest in my own potential, and how I had risen from the ashes of a love that no longer valued my ambitions. The applause I received, the nods of respect from peers, and the heartfelt messages of encouragement all served as a powerful affirmation that my journey was one of genuine transformation. I was no longer a man who had sacrificed his dreams for the sake of appeasing another. I was a man who had boldly chosen to chase his own destiny, and in doing so, had discovered a reservoir of strength that I had never known existed. One crisp autumn evening, I found myself standing in the softly lit atrium of a local conference center, preparing to share my story with an audience of eager, attentive faces. As I took the stage, I recalled the painful moments of that fateful dinner, the humiliation, the betrayal, the overwhelming loneliness, and then, with a steady voice, I began to recount my journey of self-discovery and rebirth. I spoke of the long nights of introspection, the countless hours spent at the office proving my worth, and the personal milestones that gradually rebuilt my shattered identity. I shared how each step of my journey, each late night, each quiet morning run, each determined decision, had culminated in the promotion I had earned and the financial independence I now enjoyed. The audience was silent, captivated by the raw honesty of my words, and when I finished, the applause was thunderous, a validation not only of my success but of the transformative power of choosing oneself. In that moment, I realized that my journey was no longer a solitary struggle but a beacon of hope for others who had ever felt diminished by betrayal. Now, as I sit here in the quiet sanctuary of my new life, one built on the unwavering pillars of self-worth, resilience, and determined ambition, I look back on the journey with a profound sense of gratitude. Every betrayal, every painful tear, every moment of doubt had led me to this place of unshakable independence. The past, with all its scars, no longer defined me. Instead, it became the foundation upon which I had built a future of limitless possibility. I had reclaimed my career, my financial security, and my identity, transforming each setback into a stepping stone toward a brighter tomorrow. I know that the road ahead will still have its challenges, moments when the memories of betrayal might surface and the pain may try to creep back in. But I also know that I am stronger now, more resilient, and fully committed to living life on my own terms. My destiny is mine to shape, and every day I wake up with the determination to continue building, growing, and thriving. I have learned that true empowerment comes from within, that the strength to rise above life's deepest wounds is a testament to the human spirit's boundless capacity for renewal. As I close this chapter and look forward to the unwritten pages of my future, I carry with me the lessons of every hardship, each one a reminder that I am not defined by what was taken from me, but by what I have reclaimed through unwavering resolve. I step into tomorrow with a heart full of gratitude, a mind enriched by every trial, and a spirit emboldened by the knowledge that my future is mine to create, one courageous, determined step at a time. This is my story, a saga of betrayal transformed into triumph, of a man who, when faced with the crushing weight of heartbreak, chose not to crumble but to rise and redefine his destiny. And as I continue to write the chapters of my life, I do so with an unyielding conviction that every ending, no matter how painful, is merely the beginning of something extraordinary.